Hello and welcome to another SciFirst MovieTalk episode. In this episode I will be discussing the 1996 Tim Burton sci-fi comedy Mars Attacks. For me, when I was younger, there was one film that defined a benchmark in cinematography, especially in the sci-fi genre, and ushered in basically a new era for the big summer blockbuster. I am of course talking about the original Independence Day. This film absolutely blew me away and, of course, got me started on all things aliens and space related. Mars Attacks, for me, is one of those films for which I had high expectations when it first came out, being approximately the same time as Independence Day. It was in the same year at least, and, of course, of the sci-fi ilk. So, when this first got tipped and the first trailers and posters started to drop, I remember being absolutely keen and excited to go and watch it. But I do have to admit that at the time, back in 1996, I was very disappointed. I didn't get the comedy and I didn't quite understand where the film was coming from, to be honest. But that was quite a while ago now. I have watched the film a number of times since then and have certainly come to appreciate it on its own accord for the absolutely splendid, whilst also being absolutely absurd, sci-fi film that it is. Now that I've grown up and have come to watch a lot more varied films, I can obviously see where its basis as a parody stems from. The film is an absolute throwback to the classic 1950s and 1960s style monster and alien B-movies. And to say that the comedy in Mars Attacks grew on me as my love for these films developed would be an understatement. So, what is Mars Attacks? Well, what's it about? Basically, it pretty much says it in the title. A bunch of Martians attack Earth. The film is actually based on a Topps trading card game, I believe. And so, quite an original basis for a movie, I thought. It stars a stellar cast, well, at least for 1996, including some of the big names of the time, such as Sarah Jessica Parker, Pierce Brosnan, Michael J. Fox, Annette Bening, Danny DeVito, Jack Nicholson, Glenn Close, Natalie Portman, just to name a few. Oh, and we also have the likes of Tom Jones and Jim Brown making appearances. To be honest, I could be here all day. The film starts by showing us the extent of the Martian invasion in a pretty impressive title sequence, penned to a rather catchy Danny Elfman penned theme tune. Also stylised in the homage to the 1950s come 1960s sci-fi genre. I was humming it basically for ages after the film had finished. As Earth picks up the presence of the Martians approaching, we then build up into the film as scientists look to the skies in order to figure out whether or not the alien horde is friendly or hostile. The aliens do, after a series of misunderstandings, prove to be hostile, with the intent of taking over the Earth, with Earth seemingly powerless to stop them. The aliens and their antics absolutely crack me up now each time I watch this film. The comedy is over the top and exaggerated to say the very least, but it's designed to be like that. And I think it's that kind of humour I didn't get when I was younger. I was expecting a serious science fiction film, but of course that is certainly not what this film is. And to be honest, the comedy is done with some style. It's fairly slapstick, don't get me wrong, but it doesn't have to resort to the really kind of stupid comedy and fart jokes that many parody films do. Quite a lot of the comedy comes from the aliens themselves, but the human actors are just as good, playing to the strengths of each at the time. So this is slapstick comedy done right. It's cleverly constructed, and I think personally one of Tim Burton's best films. I'm not going to give away the ending if you haven't seen the film, I really am. But what I would say is that of all the ways to kill aliens that I have ever seen in the many movies I have watched, the way that the aliens are killed in this in Mars Attacks has to be the most unique and unusual I've ever seen. It's certainly surreal and to say the least, but absolutely hilarious. The film is certainly, definitely worth a watch. Certainly not to be taken too seriously, but extremely good fun. and an extremely great homage to the early era of sci-fi. If anything, this film has taught me a valuable lesson growing up, and one that I try to live by today. Try not to have any preconceptions about a film, or at least try to keep them to a minimum. Try to view a film for its own merits. Doesn't always work, but I try. So, that brings me to the end of this episode. Many thanks for watching. If you like my reviews and general movie discussions, and please want to see more, please do hit that subscribe button. Please leave a like on this episode or any other on my channel. And again, if you have any comments, leave them too. Especially if you've got any ideas or movies you want me to see as part of upcoming SciFirst Movie Talk episodes. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.